Hello and welcome to BCC Virtual Racing, and tonight's race, the individual time trial handicap race. So this is a meet-up with some 33 riders according to the list entered for tonight's race. Quite a few on the start line there. Shannon, I think, has arranged the meet-up, so he's there first. Notice Lancia was in there early, which is unusual for him. Normally arrives very late, but good to see all the riders lining up now. The format, as I said, a reverse sort of handicap, with the last rider, supposedly the fastest one, leaving last, with the slowest rider going first. And that, in theory, should mean that all riders end up at the finish at exactly the same time. May not work that way, of course, but let's hope that it does. First rider is due off in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. That rider will be Andy Telford, followed by Rob Jones and Richard Lay. I'll come back to those riders a little bit later. Just checking at the moment that unusually for me everything is working technically. It seems to be in my end. If not, put a message on the message board, message the group, let me know, but I think it is working. 27 riders on the start line now, 28 scheduled to come at the moment. Undoubtedly there will be someone that misses the start, but that's the way these things work, and 2 minutes 50 seconds until that start. So this is a flat course, largely. It is the 16.9 kilometre Tick Tock course, which, excuse me 1 second, I'll just switch to something else. The 16.9 kilometre Tick Tock course with a 2.5 kilometre lead in, so riders will pass the start/finish line twice, once obviously at the start, once at the finish, so do make certain that you stop in the right place and continue on until the finish line. Being a TT, the fastest time is likely to be, or at least based on previous times, in the Autumn Combination League, the fastest time was Angus Stoneham in a time of 22 minutes 16 seconds, and the slowest Andy Telford 28:30. So this will be over rather quickly. And being a flat course in a TT of this nature, and being around roughly 20 minutes long, 25 minutes long, this is a great opportunity for riders to show that they can ride at FTP. This will be a challenge, of course, for many. Excuse me, just moving screens around on my desktop. This will be a challenge for many. Theoretically, at least, riders should be able to hold above FTP for the majority of this event, and certainly quite common for riders to hold sort of 5 to 10% above FTP for the first 5 minutes of a time trial of this nature, settle into the race itself, and then towards the end, it depends how they feel, 5 to 10 minutes away from the end, go all out to see how much they can push. This does, of course, favour the larger rider. Even if you have the same watts per kilo as a larger rider on a course like this, they will go faster. It's just the laws of physics. It favours them. And unusually, of course, for an individual time trial or any time trial, drafting is allowed. So there could be a great deal of tactics to play for. Of course, the event has been organised and set up to ensure that all riders finish together, but I suspect there may be some unusual results in here, looking at theoretically who should win and who should come just based on watts per kilo. It's quite an unusual results list, but we'll come back to that. So let's just join the riders now. The first rider, Andy Telford, should be going off in 4 seconds, 2 seconds, 1, and if he starts pedalling, I'll be delighted. There he goes. So Andy Telford is off, and the next rider after him will be in 18 seconds time, or 10 seconds now, which will be Rob Jones. And let's see what happens. Rob Jones is showing 1.8 watts per kilo at the moment. He shouldn't be showing anything, so he should have stopped. He shouldn't be going, and let's maybe deduct some time off him. didn't listen to the instructions. But anyhow, Andy Telford is underway, pushing 290 watts, which is great for him, 137 beats per minute, so he looks as if he's warmed up. His average FTP is around 208 watts, so he's been reading the manual on this one. He's doing exactly what he should be doing. Rob Jones is underway now, I think, properly. No, he's still fairly relaxed. I think it looks as if he's just riding up to the start line after the 2.5 kilometre lead-in. So hasn't read the instructions correctly. There's Richard Lay's gone off as well. Another rider that hasn't read the instructions. He should be, let's have a look, 50 seconds. No, he is in fact underway now, that is correct. Oliver White should be going now. Is he in? Let's have a look, see if I can find him. There he is, he's underway. 340 watts. It's Oliver White, one of the heaviest riders. In fact, I think might be the heaviest rider tonight at 96 kilos. Averages around 2.57 watts per kilo, 247 watts FTP. Next after him should be Mark Littlewood at 2 minutes and 4 seconds in. Can't see, there is Littlewood. Littlewood is underway. Very low heartbeat. Doesn't look as if he may not have had the opportunity to warm up, but at 240 watts he's certainly pushing as I would expect him to do at this stage. Just after him should be Richard Hall underway. Can't see him on the start list. And let's just have a look at some of the other riders already going. Collier's underway. Hindley's still sitting at the start, so I'm not sure what Collier's doing. He's let's see, 27 seconds in, 1 minute 57 overall on the start time. Let's have a check. Let's move up to the front anyway and see how Andy Telford's doing. So he's 1.8 kilometres in, has not gone through the start finish line. In fact, there it is in the top right of the screen, the archway over the road. So riders will need to come back to that to finish. This is a course that's very familiar for everyone, of course. So theoretically, if all is even, Rob Jones should be 18 seconds behind. In fact, I may have mistaken Rob Jones and Peter Jones earlier. Apologies to you both. Can't see Rob Jones on the list. Let's have a quick look back at the start line. See who's still sitting there. And these are the fast riders, the top 10, waiting nervously. Unfortunately for them, they can't pedal at this stage, and that may well be Shannon that's underway. You've just seen the banner moving off. There's a rider moving. 3 riders going at once, 4 riders going at once. Lancier's off at 11 watts per kilo. He's already chasing down Langen by the looks of it. And Lancier shouldn't be going off until 4 minutes and 10 seconds, so this seems to be falling apart slightly. Who didn't read the instructions? Some did, some didn't, by the looks of it. There is Shannon. They've organised the meet-up. So on the screen now you can see at the top next to the checkered flag 1 minute 55 that it says next to Andy Telford. And if I move to, there is Rob Jones. He has stopped, so I think he's probably worked out what's going on. But if you look, 1 minute 54, top right next to the checkered flag for Andy Telford, that should be the same time for every rider. It is. So that is the time from the start of the meetup. So riders are supposed to go at their indicated time. So next we're at 1 minute 54. No, this is counting down. I've got it the wrong way around. Oh, sorry, 5:45 is the the wrong way around. 5:49 total time for the Andy Telford, top right of the screen. Let's just see, this makes more sense now. 4:30 for Oliver White. 5:56 minutes for Richard Lay. Let's see now if I can begin to get these in order. And that is Richard Lay just crossing the start line under the arch. And let's move back further in the field. So we already have riders together. By the looks of it, Lancia, Langen and Jury. Lancia is deciding to draft. So I'm just having a look at the start order. So Lancia and Jury, 7 seconds between them at the start, if they got that right. Langen, further 2 seconds. So these 3 of these riders, at least, scheduled to start together. And that looks like Civita with another silly name. Who did start 30 seconds ahead of these 3 riders right next to him. So theoretically should be 30 seconds further up the course, but I don't know that they all started as they should have done. Lots of riders, I think, will be making many excuses tonight. Too many Christmas pies. It might be interesting to have a look at weights of riders and see if they've changed. And this is the last race of the season before the Winter League starts next week, I think it is, 4th of January. Right, Charles underway, 3 minutes 27 seconds in, 2.4 kilometres, just coming up to the start line along with Ensign and O'Brien. So these riders, Charles, Ensign and O'Brien, very similar start times, and Taft as well on the start list. Can't see him on the rider list. So this is where it will become a little bit tactical now as the riders decide to draft with each other. There is Taft riding up towards the start, and Stoneham and Tom, all riders underway. So Stoneham and Tom have just passed Taft, which shouldn't have happened at this stage because they started 2 minutes after him. That's before the start, even the start line on the course itself, the time segment at least. So I think this event may require some practice by the looks of it. But let's move up towards the front, see how Andy Telford is doing. Stoneham, we'll just stop here for a second. So Stoneham started 9 seconds after Shannon, so has caught him already. Currently running at 3.5 watts per kilo. His average, or his FTP is 3.23 watts per kilo. So he is running 6 minutes 50 seconds in, so he's right where he needs to be, I reckon. He won't hold this pace for the whole race, but this is a great way to start. Tactically very good. Collier and Littlewood together at 5.2 kilometres. Collier and Littlewood, the starting gap between them roughly 20 seconds, and that is with Collier starting behind Littlewood, so Collier has caught Littlewood. And let's see if Andy Telford is still by himself. He is still in first place. He's holding off all the other riders at this stage, 6.2 kilometres in. And power has come down for him to 190 watts, 145 beats per minute on the heart, or pushing up slightly there, but around just under 200. His FTP is 208 watts, which is a good position to be in at this stage of the TT. So I think he's doing rather well, and I hope he manages to hold on to that. Theoretically, next on the list should be Rob Jones, then Richard Lay, Peter Jones, and Hayden Measham. Doesn't look as if Measham has started. I think about 6 or 7 riders did not start this evening. That's still a great turnout with 33, 32 riders. So Oliver White started 1 minute 23 behind Telford and has cut that down to 49 seconds. So he is advancing. And if we go back to Telford, we'll get some indication of the other riders, how they're performing. So Collier, let's have a look, started 2 minutes 26 behind Telford and is now at 1:12, gaining as well. Same applies to Littlewood. Shannon was scheduled to start at 2:59 behind and is at 2:05. Same for Stoneham. Lay was scheduled to be 50 seconds behind in the start, but is now at 2:13, not suggesting he's getting slower, but this may have reflected the somewhat unusual start process. You can see there Shannon ahead of him, 10 seconds. Shannon's the one with the banner above his head as he arranged the Meet Me. And we'll go back to Telford again. Let's have a look at some of the faster riders. Lancia, this is a course that should favour him. Not only is he drafting in here as well, and they're about to catch up with Langham. No, is it Langham? That's Richard Lay. And they are now, let's have a quick look, 2:20 behind Telford, and Lancia was scheduled to start 4 minutes 10 seconds behind Telford. So it looks as if it's hard to tell whether it's Telford not going at full speed or the others catching up. Probably a bit of both, of course, particularly as these riders are drafting. Jury's in there as well now. So Lancia holding 256 watts is 320, around, let's say around 300 FTP for Lancia. If I can find him on my list. Where is he? There he is, 355 watts, which equates to 3.9 watts per kilo. So he's running less than FTP at 9 minutes 50. I'd expect him to be pushing a little bit harder at this stage. By comparison, Jury could just be the fact that he's sitting behind another rider, of course, so it doesn't quite reflect like that. But Jury at 3.7 watts per kilo, and he normally sits around 3.58 at his FTP. So that's a good position to be in, but the draft does make quite a bit of difference, even on Zwift, 20% perhaps. Haven't looked at Campbell yet, riding along with Davis, ahead of Empson, which is interesting. Let's have a look. That's as expected, I think, as Campbell started some 15 seconds after Empson, but is now 38 seconds ahead of him, so that looks like a good result so far. Behind Campbell we have Empson, then Brown. You can see Empson just ahead. About a minute between these two at the start, And then Blackham, always a rider to watch. 450 watts, 500 watts seems, and a heartbeat of 176 at 6.6 kilometres in. That seems quite high, but he is a rider that's capable of averaging 3.5. That's a 3.5 watt average based on his FTP, but I've seen him push much higher than that for much longer, so not all entirely accurate. The last rider on the course at this stage is Tough, which is unusual. He is riding at 3.5 watts per kilo, just a little bit below FTP. Heartbeat's up there, cadence is not bad. I suspect something happened at the start for him. And move right up to the front again, get an idea of what's going on. I want to be very careful not to miss anyone coming towards the finish. Bear in mind that the first riders should be finishing in about 5 minutes time. So Andy Telford on 9.6 kilometres. If the faster group, and in that I put Stoneham, Tom, Blackham, JB was supposed to start, but I haven't seen him on the list. They're on, Lance is on 8.8, 8.9 kilometres, about a kilometre behind Telford with 5-6 minutes to go if these riders finish at their predicted times. Lancia's last time on this course 24 minutes, so 6 minutes to close down a kilometre approximately. It's entirely possible. So it looks as if Littlewood has moved into second place along with Oliver White and Adam Collier. Littlewood now 260 watts, 3.1 watts per kilo is his average FTP. He's holding around that, sometimes above, sometimes below, so roughly on FTP, which is a great position to be in. All riders should be able to ride this course at FTP, at their 20-minute FTP, if not more. Typically in a TT of this type, it would be around 10% more. But being just after Christmas, that may prove to be just that little bit difficult. Someone's up out of the saddle there. And then the group behind, so behind Littlewood, let's just have a look. Can't see them in the distance there, but there are 3 riders. There is Stoneham actually. Let's just go straight back to him, because I haven't seen him yet, but it looks as if he is doing what is expected. I haven't seen Tom in the race start yet, but Stoneham has moved forward up through the field and now at 10.2 kilometres, only 3.3 watts per kilo though. I would expect him, oh this is Marcus Stoneham, not Angus, so this is right where I'd expect him to be. So he's sitting there with just behind, let's have a look, Jury, Shannon, Civita, Langan, and in fact his Lancia is on the front of that group as well. So if he can just catch on to the back of this group, I think he'll hold that. No split times unfortunately, it's rather difficult to track this, just to sort of get an idea of how riders are doing. And behind Stoneham, it looks as if he is dropping away slightly, I hope not. Hindley and O'Brien, Charles, around I saw 390 watts there, sorry 320 watts as I clicked on it. For Charles, 3.6 average, he's on 4.2, so still holding above FTP, and he's drafting at the moment as well. So O'Brien must be doing the same. O'Brien at 4.1, so he's slightly below, Charles is slightly above. Campbell and Davis just about to catch up with, so which is that Hindley in front, that's Hindley, and then ahead of them just going round the corner, O'Brien, Charles. Oh, there is Tom actually. He looks as if he started exactly as he should have done. Let's have a look. So Blackham, Tom, Stoneham, Mayhew, Smith, been riding well recently, but I really don't expect him to keep up with these riders, not if they're going at full speed. So Mayhew, Smith, 280 watts. .6, so he's riding well actually. He's on 4.4 watts per kilo, so sitting quite a bit above FTP. Could be a push to try and catch these riders ahead of him. Looks as if they're pulling away slightly. That's the group of Blackham, Tom and Stoneham at 10.7 kilometres, 16 minutes in. Stoneham last finished this in 22 minutes 16 seconds, Tom 22.28. And still quite a few riders are missing. Still looks like Taft coming up to one of the, we're just about to go around one of the roundabouts here. And then move up to the front to see what is happening. I suspect it's going to have changed a little. Looks as if Littlewood, yes, Littlewood is now in the lead. He has caught up along with Collier and White. They've passed Telford. Lancier, Langan, Civiter, Jury, Shannon are catching up rapidly as well. So it's not going to finish for the bulk of these riders as predicted, but they shouldn't be too far apart. Now at 13.4 kilometres. Total ride distance, including the lead-in, of 19.4, I think it is. 19.4. The Tick Tock course itself is 16.9. So do remember, this is a handicap race. So the times don't matter really. The times only in effect for the starting positions. And there'll be some questions as to how some people started, I think. I certainly saw many riders rolling off too early. This is simply a first to cross the line. So at the moment, Collier is in the lead. With about 5k to go for him, including the leading Littlewood, Collier, White together. In fact, White seems to be pulling, no, he's not pulling ahead. I thought he was pulling ahead there. Just have a look behind Collier. No sign of Telford. And if we go back to Telford, behind him, Civiter, Langan, Jury, Shannon, Lancier, all catching up. In fact, just about to pass him. So there they go. And Stoneham has been a little bit isolated. Still riding well though. Charles is 24 seconds. Charles and O'Brien 24 seconds. In fact, Charles, O'Brien, Campbell 24 seconds further back. There they are. And there's Campbell, Charles and O'Brien. Hindley just hanging on at the back. Davis gaining by the looks of it. And let's just check on Stoneham and Tom. These two fearsome competitors with each other. Often the winds go back and forward. So if they're going to make a break for it. Now is the time. They're about 10 seconds behind Empson at the moment. There is Empson on course. Looking further back in the field, Blackham 27 seconds behind Tom and Stoneham. It looks as if Mayhew Smith is, yes, he's come right down in power, couldn't hold on, which is not a great surprise. Great effort though. And still at the back, Taft, heartbeat still high, and Lay 158 watts, so Lay should be much further up in the field, having started some 6 minutes ahead of Tom, Stoneham, Blackham, approximately. So we don't miss them. We'll go right up to the front, and I think sit there now. Collier still leading the pack at 15.7 kilometres, 24 minutes in, 31 kilometres per hour. And he's still sitting above his average for his FTP, around 3.4, 3.5 watts per kilo. And he probably senses that there is a chance of doing well. I think he's certainly capable of beating Littlewood and White. The challenge at the moment will be Civitar, Jury and Lang, Civitar, Jury, Langham and Shannon, and to an extent now Lancia as well, who are closing the gap. There is that following group. Littlewood moving into first place. The riders rotating around. Drafting is allowed, even though it's a TT. At 16.4 kilometres, last 3 kilometres of the race, Littlewood in front at 3.2 watts per kilo. The larger riders are beginning to show their strength. They are racing at slightly lower watts per kilo, but they are gaining. Again, this is due to their physical size and weight, which is a huge advantage on a flat course. And often with a smaller rider, they will have to push half a watt, even sometimes 1 watt more per kilo, just to sit on the back of a larger rider, just to sit behind them. Doesn't always happen that way, of course. There are some very small riders that are great TTers, but not common. Just try to come up past the start pens of many of the races on the left hand side. And White, Collier and Littlewood still changing back and forward, but Langham, Civitar, Jury, Lancia and Shannon is doing well to hang in there. Closing down fairly rapidly, down to 12 seconds now. .5 kilometres under the bridge. And there is the finish line, just appearing the top right of the screen, the archway. So I'll stay with these riders now until the finish. So it's going to be between Langham, Littlewood and Collier. I don't think, having said that, they've suddenly just started accelerating. I was just about to say, I don't think Shannon, Lancia, Civitar and Co will catch up in this distance, but they might. They'll have to go some though. Distance, time between them is staying fairly similar. There they are. So we'll see these riders ahead of them Let's have a look from their point of view. And I think they might just do it actually. So this is going to be an interesting finish. Still 7 seconds in it and about a kilometre to go. If these riders realise they're catching up, and I'm sure they do, now they're going to get caught. The time gap is dropping rather rapidly. At the moment it looks like Civitar's in the head of this pack. In fact, there they are coming together. So Shannon's the easy rider to identify with a great big yellow beam above his head. Lancia should do well here. This is an opportunity for him, but it might have been slightly wasted. He had the opportunity to go a little bit earlier. He sensibly drafted towards the start, but didn't take up the opportunity to pull out, which he should have been able to do. So there is the finish. These riders are together now. Just about. White is going for it. 313 watts. Can he hold on? He might just be able to take it. So it's White, Collier and Littlewood still hanging on. Beginning to spread out. White's going 309 watts. Some of these riders behind have got a great spin, including Lancia, who's in fact he's catching up. He's going for it. Looks like Lancia is going to get the win. Lancia is in first place, followed by Civitar, Langen. As they approach the finish line, the sprint is on. So Lancia, Civitar, Langen, Jury, Shannon, Littlewood through the line. Well done, guys. White as well coming up next group. Campbell, Charles and O'Brien. Stoneham has managed to get back on. That's great result for him, and here they come up to the finish now. Charles is going first, 9.8 watts per kilo. Campbell at 10.4. Is Campbell going to get past? He might just, if he can hang on. He's gaining. Can't see under the arch. Missed it under the arch. Looks like it was Charles, followed by O'Brien and then Stoneham. And looks as if the timing was working relatively well. Here comes Tom, Brown, Angus, Stoneham and Davis in there as well, and Hindley. Let's see. That looks like Tom that went across the line first. Then Davis, Brown, Empson, good ride from him, followed by Hindley. Subject to confirmation, of course. And here comes the rest of the field. So looks as if Telford has backed off the path. Didn't quite last the distance, but was riding well. Doesn't look as if he's in any danger of being caught by any other riders. He will be next across the line. Under a kilometre to go. Round the left-hand bend, the arch will be in sight. And following on behind him is Blackham. Just coming into that same bend now. I don't think he's going to catch Telford. No real incentive to do so at this stage, but he was at 590 watts there, so he's certainly not giving up. Telford approaching the arch now. Having a quick look behind. There is Blackham behind him, but he's certainly not going to close that distance down, or that gap down in this distance. So here we have Telford just about to go under the archway in a time of 34 minutes and 53 seconds. Last time on this course was 28:30, so a little bit slower for him. And there is Blackham. Closed the gap very rapidly there. Good job. Mayhew Smith coming up now. And an aerial view of him coming up to the finish line. And behind him, let's go back to him now. So that's, I think he was across in 29 minutes. And don't forget, the crossing time is not the same as the segment time. There is that 2.5 kilometre lead in. So when I mentioned the times from last time, it's just an indication of the relative difference. And here is Peter Jones. No other rider close to him. Behind him is Brian Taff, then Richard Lay. And that looks to be all of the riders left on course. So quite a few didn't start by the looks of it. But it seems to have been a great idea for a race. I think some work needed on the starts. But I think the key elements of the race did come together just at the end. And here is Peter Jones just crossing the line. And then behind him, Brian Taff. I'll stay with all the riders until we finish, as it is the Christmas week. And Brian sitting at 215 watts, 3.6 is his average, so he's, I think, fair to say, riding, if anyone can call it that, fairly comfortably at this stage. Has worked hard, but certainly not pushing towards the end. No need to, really. I certainly would have expected him to finish much further up the field. Theoretically should have finished close to Empson, O'Brien, Lancier, somewhere around there. But I think that all went a little bit wrong at the start. Last rider on the course, as far as I can tell, is Richard Lay. Finish not quite in sight yet. And if I recall, this is a rider I saw going off early, so I'm not quite sure what's happened with him. And there on the left, the Fuego Flats times. Looks like Civita was first in 37.12. That's the sprint, I think, by the looks of it. But you can see the times on the left-hand side there. And as Richard Lay comes round this corner, he should now have the finish line in sight. Riding fairly comfortably again. No great surprise at this stage. No riders behind him, none in sight. But as it's the Christmas week, let's catch him crossing the line. And then the next race, I don't think published yet, I haven't seen it, or maybe I've missed it, but that's the Winter Series, which starts, I think it is on the 4th of January, but certainly very early in January, so just enough time to get a rest, and I advise everyone to get a rest. It's interesting to note those riders that perform well after they've had a rest, and those riders that ride fairly constantly, and while they ride well, they don't incrementally improve on their performance usually. So here is Richard crossing the line, and it remains for me to say thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed that race format. I think it's got lots of mileage to it. Perhaps need to refine it a little bit, especially the starts. But thanks for watching, and see you all next time.